I never imagined that my life would unravel the way it did, piece by piece, like a fragile thread being pulled until nothing remained but emptiness. I used to believe I had the perfect marriage. I used to believe that love could conquer every storm, that trust could withstand the weight of doubt, and that loyalty was the foundation of a home. But standing here now, recounting the journey of how I discovered my wife's secret life, I realize how blind I was, how naive I had been to trust so deeply without questioning what lay beneath the surface. This is my story, told not to seek sympathy, but because sometimes the pain inside becomes too heavy to bear in silence, and the truth must be spoken. It began with subtle signs, small enough to dismiss, yet sharp enough to pierce my peace. I remember nights when she stayed awake longer than usual, her phone glowing softly in the dark while I pretended to sleep. She would angle the screen away, typing quickly, her lips curling into a smile she never showed me anymore. I wanted to believe it was harmless. Maybe a friend, maybe her sister, maybe work. But the feeling inside me whispered otherwise, that primal sense that something was wrong, that the woman I loved was slowly drifting away from me. Our mornings used to be filled with warmth. I would wake to the smell of tea, her humming quietly as she moved around the kitchen, her laughter filling the silence. But slowly, the mornings became colder. She stopped humming, she stopped laughing, and she stopped looking at me the way she used to. She became distant, distracted, her eyes clouded with secrets I wasn't yet ready to confront. I tried to hold her hand one evening as we walked home, and she pulled it away casually, pretending to adjust her bag, but I felt the sting of rejection like a knife to the chest. I told myself it was stress, maybe the pressure of daily life, maybe her own struggles I hadn't noticed. I tried harder to be the husband she deserved. I brought her flowers, I cooked her favorite meals, I canceled plans with friends to spend more time with her. She would smile politely, thank me softly, and then disappear into her phone, leaving me sitting there like a stranger in my own home. That's when the loneliness began, the crushing silence of being beside someone you love, yet feeling completely invisible. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. While she showered, I reached for her phone. My hands trembled, my heart raced, because deep down I already knew what I was about to find. Her screen unlocked with ease, and what stared back at me shattered my world. Messages. Long, intimate conversations. Words filled with affection, passion, and desire. Words she hadn't spoken to me in months. I scrolled through them, my vision blurred with tears, reading how she laughed with him, how she missed him, how she felt alive in his presence. Every sentence was a dagger, every emoji a cruel reminder that her heart no longer belonged to me. When she came out of the shower, I put the phone back, my face buried in the pillow, pretending to be asleep. But inside I was burning. My chest tightened, my breath caught in my throat, and my world began to collapse silently. I didn't confront her that night. I didn't scream, I didn't demand answers. Instead, I lay there beside her, listening to her breathing slow as she drifted into peaceful sleep, while my own soul crumbled into pieces. The days that followed were torture. Every time she smiled at her phone, I saw betrayal. Every time she said she was going out with friends, I imagined him waiting for her somewhere, stealing the moments that once belonged to me. I started to question everything, every late night, every excuse, every kiss that felt half-hearted. My mind became a battlefield of doubts and suspicions, and no matter how much I tried to silence it, the truth screamed louder. Finally, I gathered the courage to confront her. I waited until dinner, when the weight of silence was unbearable. "Who is he?" I asked, my voice trembling. She froze, her fork clattering onto the plate, her eyes widening in shock. For a moment, she tried to deny it, tried to laugh it off, but I had already seen everything. I told her I knew about the messages, the late nights, the secrets. Her face turned pale, and the room filled with the suffocating weight of truth. She confessed slowly, her words dripping with guilt and fear. Yes, there was someone else. Yes, she had been unhappy. Yes, she felt alive with him in ways she no longer did with me. I sat there, numb, unable to comprehend how the woman I had given my heart to, the woman I trusted with my soul, could so easily replace me. I wanted to scream, I wanted to break everything around me, but all I could do was stare at her, tears streaming down my face. The days after the confession were even worse. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't think straight. Every corner of the house reminded me of her betrayal. The couch where we once watched movies together felt like a graveyard of lies. The bed we once shared felt poisoned with memories I could no longer cherish. I found myself replaying every moment of our marriage, searching for signs I had missed, wondering if I had failed as a husband, if I had pushed her away somehow. The guilt mixed with anger, the love mixed with hate, and I was drowning in emotions too heavy to carry. I tried to forgive her, at least in my mind. I thought maybe we could rebuild, maybe love could heal the cracks. But every time I looked at her, I saw him. Every time she touched me, I felt the ghost of another man's presence between us. I became restless, pacing the nights away, consumed by the thought that I was no longer enough. And the worst part? She still spoke to him. Even after the confession, even after promising to end it, I caught her whispering on calls, her voice soft and tender, words meant for him, not me. That was the moment I realized it was over. The marriage wasn't broken, it was dead. What remained was only the shell of love, hollow and cold, unable to shelter either of us. And yet, despite the pain, despite the betrayal, I couldn't let go. My heart clung desperately to the memories, to the woman she once was, to the dream I had built in my mind. But dreams can't survive when reality tears them apart. This was just the beginning of my descent into darkness, the unraveling of everything I held sacred. Little did I know, the worst was still to come. The lies would grow deeper, the secrets darker, and the choices I would make would haunt me forever. Days turned into weeks after my discovery, and though I tried to keep life moving as if nothing had changed, every detail around me reminded me of betrayal. I would sit at the dinner table and notice how she avoided my eyes, or how she quickly checked her phone when a message arrived. I wanted to believe that maybe I was imagining it, but the truth was already buried deep inside me. Her laughter, once so natural, now sounded hollow. When she touched my hand, it felt forced, as though she was performing an act. The warmth that once made me feel safe had turned into a cold shadow. I lay awake at night, staring at the ceiling, replaying every conversation, every excuse, every small detail I had missed before. I thought back to the times I had been busy working late, thinking I was providing for us. Maybe that was when the distance grew. Maybe I wasn't there enough. But no matter how I twisted the blame in my head, the weight always returned to her choices. She had crossed the line. I remember one evening clearly. She was sitting in the living room, scrolling on her phone with a faint smile. I asked her what was so funny, and she quickly replied, "Just a silly post." But I knew. That smile wasn't for me anymore. It was for him. The invisible presence of another man filled my home, even though he wasn't physically there. My heart carried anger, sadness, and confusion all at once. I wanted to confront her, but I wasn't ready to hear her admit the truth. I wasn't ready to hear her say she loved someone else. So instead, I let the silence grow between us, even as it tore me apart. I began to notice how she dressed differently. The simple clothes she once wore at home were replaced with carefully chosen outfits, even when she claimed she was just going to the market. Her perfume lingered longer than usual, and her hair was always styled, even for short trips. These were signs I could no longer ignore. I followed her once, just to see where she went. My heart pounded in my chest as I trailed behind her, hoping desperately that I was wrong. But when she met him, when I saw the way her eyes lit up in his presence, it confirmed everything. They didn't touch, at least not then, but the look in her eyes was worse than any embrace. It was love. It was desire. It was betrayal carved into my soul. I returned home that day broken, yet I said nothing. I carried the weight of that truth in silence, eating dinner with her as though I hadn't seen what I saw. She asked me if something was wrong, and I shook my head. How could I speak when my voice was drowning in sorrow? The nights grew colder, the days heavier. My mind became a battlefield, torn between anger and a desperate longing to save what we had built. I loved her still, even as she destroyed me piece by piece. Love, I realized, is both a blessing and a curse. It keeps you holding on, even when you should let go. But deep down, I knew the silence couldn't last forever. Sooner or later, I would have to face her. I would have to open the door to the truth, even if it shattered me completely. I wanted to believe my wife still loved me, but the evidence kept stacking against her. One night she said she was going to her cousin's house for a few hours. Something in her tone felt off. My heart pounded as I made the decision to follow her. I drove behind her car, careful not to be noticed. Instead of turning toward her cousin's street, she drove across town and parked in front of a small apartment building. My stomach dropped. I watched her get out of the car, adjusting her hair and lipstick in the mirror. She looked excited. Not like someone visiting family. I stayed hidden in the shadows as she walked up the stairs and knocked on a door. A man opened it, smiling, and welcomed her inside. My chest burned like fire. It felt like my world shattered right there on that sidewalk. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. My wife, the woman I had trusted with my life, was in another man's arms. I sat in my car for hours, staring at the building, my hands trembling on the steering wheel. I kept asking myself, do I go inside? Do I confront them? Or do I just drive away and pretend I never saw this? The weeks that followed were some of the most disorienting of my entire life. Every day I woke up with the crushing awareness that the woman I loved had betrayed me in ways I couldn't yet fully process. Yet I also woke up to her face, sometimes pale, sometimes puffy from crying, sometimes desperate for a conversation. We were locked in a strange limbo, either reconciled nor separated. And that space was its own form of hell. One evening, as we sat in the dim light of our bedroom, she said softly, "Do you ever think maybe we could start over?" Her words hung in the air like fragile glass. I didn't know whether to laugh, scream, or cry. Start over? After everything? But in the silence, my heart betrayed me. Part of me wanted that. I remembered our wedding day, the way she had looked at me with glowing eyes, full of trust and love. I wanted to believe that woman still existed somewhere inside her. "I don't know if I can," I finally whispered. She reached for my hand, but I pulled away. The wound was still raw. Despite my resistance, she tried harder in the weeks that followed. She cooked my favorite meals, left me notes, even suggested counseling. I went with her once, sitting stiffly across from a stranger who asked me to share my feelings. All I could manage was, "She broke me." The counselor nodded sympathetically, but no amount of therapy could rewrite history. The nightmares continued. I often saw her with him in my sleep, laughing, whispering, touching. Sometimes I'd wake up sweating, my chest tight, and see her beside me, breathing peacefully as if nothing had happened. The contrast nearly drove me mad. And then, something unexpected happened. Her affair partner reached out to me. A message appeared on my phone one night. "I'm sorry for what happened. She told me she was unhappy in her marriage. I didn't mean to destroy your life." I stared at the screen for a long time, rage boiling inside me. How dare he speak of sorry, as if that could erase the betrayal. I wanted to throw my phone across the room. But instead I typed back one line. "Stay out of our lives." After that I blocked him. But the incident stirred something in me. It reminded me that betrayal isn't just about the betrayer, it's also about the choices we make afterward. Did I want to spend my life punishing her? Or did I want to rebuild myself, with or without her? So, I began to shift my focus. I started running in the mornings, pounding my pain into the pavement. I spent hours at the gym, transforming the weakness I felt into physical strength. I threw myself into work, volunteering for extra projects, staying late at the office, anything to feel in control again. And slowly, I noticed her watching me differently. Not with guilt, but with longing. She saw a man rising from the ashes of her betrayal, and it scared her. One night, after dinner, she asked, "Do you hate me?" I looked at her for a long moment and replied, "I don't know. Some days, yes. Some days I pity you. Some days I just feel nothing. Her eyes welled with tears, but I didn't flinch. I was no longer desperate for her apologies. Still, the question lingered: could love survive betrayal? I didn't yet have the answer, but I knew one thing: I would never be the same man I was before. The man who trusted blindly, who gave everything without boundaries, who believed love was unbreakable, that man was gone. In his place stood someone stronger, colder, and infinitely more cautious. And she knew it too. I thought that by confronting my wife, by tearing down every wall of lies between us, I would finally find peace. But instead, I discovered something deeper, something that scarred me in ways I could never have imagined. When I sat across from her that night, my hands trembling, my voice breaking, I wanted the truth. I demanded it. "Tell me everything," I said. "Not just half-truths. Not just excuses. Tell me who you are when I am not watching." She looked at me with tired eyes. For the first time, she did not try to argue, she did not try to manipulate me with sweet words. She simply whispered, "If I tell you, you will never see me the same again." And she was right. What poured out of her was not just a confession of infidelity, it was an entire secret life. The secret meetings, the late-night calls, the places she went when she claimed she was visiting friends. But more than that, she confessed that there was a version of herself she never showed me, the reckless, selfish, hungry version who wanted to feel alive at any cost. I sat in silence, my heart splitting with every word. "Why?" I asked. "Why was I not enough for you? I gave you everything I had. My heart, my loyalty, my life." She broke down. "Because I didn't know who I was. Because I felt trapped. Because every time I looked at you, I saw love so pure that it suffocated me. I didn't deserve it." Those words, they echoed in my mind for days. She didn't cheat because of lack of love. She cheated because of her own emptiness, her own brokenness. But does that make it easier? No. It makes it worse. Because I realized that no matter how much love I poured into her, I could never have filled the void inside her. For weeks I lived in limbo. Half of me wanted to forgive her, to believe that people can change. The other half wanted to burn every memory we had ever made and walk away forever. I tried everything: silence, distance, arguments, even counseling. But the truth was unavoidable. The foundation of trust had crumbled, and once it is gone, nothing can truly rebuild it. One night, as I lay awake staring at the ceiling, I realized something. I had been asking the wrong question all along. I kept asking, "Why did she do this to me?" When the real question was, "Why am I still letting her?" That night I made my choice. I woke up, packed a single bag, and left the house that had once been our home. I left behind the photographs, the furniture, the walls that had heard both our laughter and our screams. I left behind the woman I had once thought I would grow old with. And as I walked into the cold night air, a strange feeling came over me. It wasn't anger anymore. It wasn't even sorrow. It was freedom. Because betrayal may destroy love, but it also forces rebirth. Today, as I share my story, I don't do it to relive the pain. I do it to remind myself, and anyone listening, that sometimes the end of one story is the beginning of another. I don't know where life will take me now. I don't know if I will ever trust again, or love again with the same innocence. But I do know this: I will never again lose myself in someone else's lies. I will never again sacrifice my peace for the illusion of love. My wife's secret life destroyed everything I thought we had, but it also gave me something I never had before: clarity. And maybe that is the cruel gift of betrayal. The nights after discovering her betrayal were the hardest. Sleep became a stranger, replaced by endless hours of staring at the ceiling, replaying every smile, every laugh, every tender touch she had given me. They all felt poisoned now, like shattered glass cutting into my soul. I tried to reason with myself. Maybe I had misunderstood. Maybe there was an explanation I hadn't considered. But the messages were too clear, the looks in her eyes too telling. The truth was inescapable. My wife, The woman I trusted above all else had betrayed me. The mornings were no easier. I would drag myself out of bed, force myself to shave, to dress, to go about the motions of life, while inside me a storm raged. People around me, colleagues and friends, had no idea. They greeted me, laughed with me, spoke about trivial things, while I carried a wound so deep it was invisible to the eye. At home, silence became my companion. She noticed it, of course. She asked me once, "Why are you so quiet these days?" I looked at her, searching her face for the woman I once knew, and all I could see were lies painted over love. I simply said, "I'm tired," and walked away. But tired didn't even begin to cover it. I was exhausted in my soul. The house that once felt warm and full of laughter now felt like a stage where every gesture was fake, every word rehearsed. She tried harder than ever to be affectionate, cooking my favorite meals, sitting close to me, even holding my hand at random times. But the weight of what I knew crushed any attempt she made. It wasn't love anymore. It was guilt. One evening, I sat in the living room, staring blankly at the television, while she moved around the kitchen. The smell of food filled the air, but I felt nothing. My appetite had left me long ago. She came to me with a plate, smiling nervously. "I made your favorite," she said softly. I looked at the plate, then at her. The woman I once adored, the woman I once thought was my forever, now stood before me like a stranger. I couldn't help but ask, "Tell me, when you were with him, did you laugh the way you used to laugh with me? Did you smile at him the way you used to smile at me?" Her face went pale. She set the plate down on the table, her hands trembling. "Why are you asking me that?" she whispered. "Because I need to know," I replied, my voice breaking. "I need to know if every moment we had was real, or if you were already gone long before I found out." Tears welled in her eyes. She reached out, but I pulled back. The touch that once brought me comfort now felt like fire on my skin. "I made a mistake," she cried. "A terrible mistake. But I still love you. I never stopped loving you." I laughed bitterly. "Love? Don't use that word. If you loved me, you wouldn't have done it. You wouldn't have destroyed us." She dropped to her knees, clutching my hands. "Please don't give up on us. Don't throw everything away. We can fix this. I'll do anything to make it right." I looked down at her, broken and desperate, and for a moment, a war raged inside me. Part of me wanted to forgive, to believe that love could conquer even this. But the other part, the part that had been stabbed by her betrayal, knew that some wounds never truly heal. I pulled my hands free and stood. "You already threw everything away. You just didn't care to notice." Her sobs followed me as I walked away, but I didn't turn back. Days turned into weeks. My mind became a battlefield, torn between anger and longing, between love and hatred. I thought of leaving her countless times. I even packed a bag once, ready to walk out the door. But something held me back, maybe fear, maybe hope, maybe just the weight of years we had spent together. I started going on long walks at night, just to clear my head. The cool air, the silence of empty streets, gave me space to breathe. Sometimes I would end up at the park where we once shared picnics, or by the cafe where we had our first date. Memories haunted me at every turn. One night, as I sat alone on a bench, my phone buzzed. It was her. A simple message. "Please come home. I can't do this without you." I stared at the screen for a long time before putting the phone away. She couldn't do this without me, but she had no problem betraying me with him. The irony was suffocating. Still, I went home. Not because of her message, but because deep down, I wasn't ready to let go. When I walked in, she was waiting, her eyes red from crying. She approached cautiously, as if I were a wounded animal that might lash out at any moment. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness," she said softly, "but I'm begging you to give me a chance to prove myself again." I didn't respond. I walked past her, into our bedroom, and closed the door. I could hear her crying outside, but I didn't move. I lay there in the darkness, wondering if forgiveness was even possible, or if I was just delaying the inevitable end. One morning, weeks later, I found her sitting at the table with a notebook in front of her. She looked up as I entered, her face pale and tired. "I wrote everything down," she said. "The truth. Every detail. I want you to read it. I want you to know everything, so there are no more lies between us." I hesitated, then took the notebook. Inside were pages upon pages of her handwriting. She had written it all: the first time she met him, the moments they shared, the reasons she let it happen. Every word was like a dagger to my heart. I had to stop multiple times, my hands shaking, my vision blurred with tears. But I forced myself to read it all. When I finished, I dropped the notebook on the table. "Why?" I asked, my voice hollow. "Why would you do this to me? To us?" She covered her face with her hands. "I was lonely. You were working so much, and I felt invisible. He made me feel noticed, wanted. But it was a lie. A stupid, meaningless lie. And I would give anything to take it back." Her words cut deep, but they also made me realize something. Yes, I had been busy with work. Yes, maybe I had taken her for granted at times. But betrayal was never the answer. There were 100 ways she could have reached out to me, 1,000 ways we could have fixed things together. She chose the one path that destroyed everything. I closed my eyes, leaning back in the chair. "I don't know if I can ever look at you the same way again," I admitted. Her tears fell silently. "Then let me spend the rest of my life trying to change that. Please." And there it was, the impossible choice. To forgive, or to walk away. To rebuild, or to let it all crumble. I didn't know the answer yet. All I knew was that my heart was torn between the love I still felt for her, and the pain that wouldn't let me breathe. I stood at the doorway of my old life, the wreckage of broken trust scattered all around me. The woman I once loved with every breath had become a stranger, and the life we had built together dissolved into ashes. Yet, as painful as it was, I realized something in that moment. I could either let her betrayal define me, or I could choose to rise from it. I didn't shout. I didn't curse her name. I simply turned away. My silence spoke louder than words ever could. The pain in my chest was real, but so was the strength quietly blooming beneath it. In the weeks that followed, I rebuilt myself piece by piece. I focused on my work, my health, my dreams, things I had long neglected in the chaos of love and lies. Slowly, I felt the weight lifting. Her betrayal destroyed the marriage, but it did not destroy me. I learned the hardest truth: sometimes love isn't enough, and sometimes letting go is the only path forward. And so, I walked away, scarred but not broken, ready to write a new chapter where honesty, self-respect, and peace would finally take the place of pain.